Okay, so let's just do a quick, 3, 2, we're live.
Excellent.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Trustees Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. Welcome to the February 9, 2023 meeting of this trust. The meeting is being held in person with some committee members participating remotely. At this time, I will conduct a roll call attendance to determine if a quorum is present. Please clearly respond. Present via WebEx or present in person when your name is called. Fahid Fazari.
Present via WebEx.
I am present. Mike Fascitelli is excused. David Maturano.
Present via WebEx.
Courtney Nicolato.
Present via WebEx.
Susan Petrovas.
Present via WebEx.
Present Palage.
Present WebEx.
Chair Margot Cook.
Present via WebEx.
Okay, and Vice Chair Mike McNally is excused, and I'm also present via WebEx. I will declare that a quorum exists. 4 out of 6 voting members are present either pursuant to a WebEx or in person. A reminder to all the members, for the benefit of the audience and the note takers, please clearly identify yourself whenever you comment, make a motion or a second to a motion. Participants using WebEx are required to keep their cameras on. As remote members, and all persons present at the meeting location must be clearly audible and visible to each other. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that the University of Rhode Island occupies the traditional homeland of the Narragansett Nation and the Niantic people. The first order of business is the minutes of the October 18th, 22 joint meeting of the Finance and Facilities. Now, to stay away from institutional risk, they did not have a quorum last meeting, so we're just doing Finance and Facilities because we are standing alone today, correct? Michelle?
Frank?
Yes, correct.
I'm pretty positive of that, so I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the October 18, 2022 joint, meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee. Do I hear that as a motion?
So moved, David Maturano.
Second,
Okay, do I hear a
Vahid.
second?
Second, Vahid.
Okay, I hear a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, there being no discussion, all in favor, respond yes.
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 Opposed? None. Any abstentions? None. The motion to approve the minutes of the October 18th, 2022 meeting of the Finance Facilities is approved. The next items of the agenda is item 2, discussion items. Who's handling that?
Right, you're gonna pass it to, sorry.
Who are we passing that to?
You're gonna pass it, the first one Ryan is gonna do.
Okay.
Okay, actually though, that is the action item. If we're gonna do that first, so do we have to amend the agenda or not?
No, because
No,
Vahid
we're
said
gonna
we're
go
here.
down the agenda. The
Here we
first
have a
one-
quorum.
Okay,
We have a quorum even if Vahid has to vote.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we're gonna stick with the discussion items.
okay, so Ryan, go ahead.
Okay, Ryan Carlo, Director of Planning and Real Estate Development, here to report on the actions taken by President Parland under his delegation of authority. We had 2. We reinstated memorandum of agreement and site license to RIEMA, the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency, to continue to occupy space on our water tower with their radio equipment. Not only do they provide emergency radio communications for the state, but also for the university's police department. So that was renewed. We also had an easement agreement executed between the university and Narragansett Electric to allow for Kearsarge to connect their solar panels to the grid. That was just approved actually just 2 days ago by the State Properties Committee. Answer any questions.
Okay. Brian, are you done?
It was just those 2.
Okay. the University Financial Update, Governor's, FY 24 recommended budget and URI
Well,
mid-year.
sorry, Armin, are there any comments by any of the committee members? Any questions? Thanks. Sorry.
All right, there's none. Okay, President Pallad, you're up. Enclose your voting.
Okay, thanks, Armin. Michelle, are you going to share the slides?
Yes. Putting them up right now. Okay.
Okay, so I will, some of this material you have seen before. But I will give some background just so that we're all reminded of the context. So thanks very much for having me here at this committee meeting. So if we go to the next slide. So just to remind, from 2004 to today, if we look in 2020 dollars, the state appropriation has been reduced by 37% over that time period. The strategy of the University of Rhode Island was to grow our undergraduate student enrollment. There are positives to that. Of course, we're bringing students from out of state to Rhode Island. So you could say the new Rhode Islanders, if they were able, to develop here. The strategy of the university overall has been to grow instructional faculty, and we have not been able to grow our tenure track faculty. The consequence has been that Rhode Island has not been able to position itself aggressively for opportunities that are possible at the federal level, and to be able to push hard in areas that are essential to the state, including topical areas in the blue economy and health and related fields. Next slide, please. Okay, so we skipped a slide.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So we've always the strategy of the university and of the state is we've always wanted to be affordable and accessible. So you see our out-of-state tuition and fees has been growing, but we've done our best to not push for the resident citizens of Rhode Island. If we go to the next slide. In fact, if we look at our just New England peers, in terms of what we're advertising, you'll see that we're on the lower end for in-state students. It's important to also remember that when we recruit students, and this is out of state, so it's fine. Thank you, Michelle. The next one, out of state, we're also at the bottom compared to our New England peers. I remind that when we raise tuition, say if we were to move up to where the University of Connecticut is, then there would be an expectation that there would be facilities, including sporting facilities, student support facilities, health facilities, and so forth. Next slide, please. If it's interesting, so these are data that have been published and federally available. Most states, their research universities have actually seen an increase in time. If you look at the 50 states, and of course we have one state university here, it's the University of Rhode Island, but we have seen the largest decrease in funding. If we go back to 1980, if you look at the upper end, you'll see states like some of our neighbors like Connecticut have invested, and the lower end heightens it. By the way, I'll remind that Penn State University, which is just above us on this queue, is also very similar to me, is leading an effort, their president, to try to have the state legislature begin to support their state. So next slide, thanks. If you look, this is taking all the universities, so we don't put the names here, but you get a feeling for the distribution of state appropriations per full-time enrollment, and in blue is URI. We're beneath everybody else. So you see where the most states are, you see where the median is, and then there's some extreme outliers, but we're effectively at the bottom of the country, and that's was reflected in the previous slide, that we've been the system that's been cut the most. Next slide. The consequences are quite serious. It's known around the world, so you can go to Switzerland, Canada, Australia, or you can go to Tennessee, North Carolina, Texas, California. Investment in higher education, it does a very important thing. First of all, it attracts students, the new state residents. It brings in, it attracts companies who want to work with those students, and it really allows for spin-offs of those critical areas. Remember, again, because we haven't grown our tenure track faculty, we've not been able to grow in new areas and opportunities. And so there are actually 3 states in the country that have standout brain drain. Rhode Island, West Virginia, and Vermont, and our students, as you see, go to Massachusetts, New York, California, Connecticut, and so forth. There's other states, not only do they keep their graduates, but they attract graduates from Rhode Island and other states. Next slide. So if we look at what's happened, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, this has been decades in the making. Obviously, we're beneath our New England peers in over almost every measure. We have hundreds of millions in deferred maintenance. It does not allow us to position to compete for obviously millions of federal research dollars, new opportunities that are growing. And fundamentally, the state of Rhode Island has not really realized the full benefit of having a research flagship university. And, the states I would point or compare, think about Wisconsin and Madison, or think about Washington and UW, Washington State. You can go down to California, UCLA, Berkeley, and Davis, and so forth. Next slide. If we and again, this is experience that I've had in my own career, but we've also seen it, and many of you are well aware, we will become a entrepreneurial hub, Rhode Island. Certainly, we will be able to ultimately generate revenue for the state. We will be building new buildings. We will be, companies will come, and it will be not only sustainable and equitable jobs, but it'll be diverse jobs that will be attractive. And so this really will be an innovation hub, Rhode Island, and all kinds of partnerships can happen. So being a top tier research university means companies want to come to work with you. And again, an extreme example, it was Western Switzerland, EPFL, a bit of investment from the federal government, led to companies having to pay Swiss salaries, Swiss taxes, but still wanted to be there to be able to work with the university and work with the university graduates. Next slide. Okay, so just to remind where we were in terms of details, February, this time last year, I went and testified to the state that we were anticipating FY 23, so our current fiscal year, that I would run a deficit of $11.3 million. And I'll talk a little bit more about it, but that's in fact what has happened. Right now, I am using reserves, and we have limited reserves, but I'm using those to get us through this financial year. And we're also freezing vacancy positions. So where we have vacancies, we're not hiring, and we're saving that money. If we look forward to FY 24, and I could go into more detail what constitutes this, the 11.3 and the 24.2 are, if you will, what will make us whole. These are, a large part of that is actually cost of living agreement, but there's also other very basic services that the university needs to be able to operate. And obviously paying people's salary is one of those. We anticipate, so as you know, you approved tuition and fee increase. We focused hard on tuition so that we could increasing it more than has been increased in recent years. Certainly as a new president, I've increased it more than, say, the previous 10 years. And we expect to be able to raise in tuition dollars 17.8 million. We've also, we're building a 5-year plan to be able to grow in critical areas for the state of Rhode Island, and that's what we call strategic initiatives. But this is really a reinvestment this is really the investment that we need now in the university. So the top two lines are really what's going to make us whole and be in a position to survive. The strategy of eating your reserves is not a long term. So the ask to the state in terms of operating budget was 32 million. On the right-hand side, you'll see and we all know this is a work in progress. It's first proposed by the governor. There's going to be various meetings up at the State House with the Senate Finance Committee and obviously the House Finance Committee. There will be meetings with the Speaker. There will be meetings with the Senate President and staff. And so the recommended increase was 7.9 million in the governor's budget. If we go to the next slide, this is another important point. I want to say, first of all, a big thank you to the state for the support that they gave us this past year. We had an unusually large RICAP support of $140 million. That allowed us to complete phase one, or will allow us to complete phase one of the Narragansett Bay campus and be able to go after phase two of the Narragansett Bay campus, including thanks to an additional 100 million that came in the Vote Yes on One campaign. So I'm very grateful to the citizens of Rhode Island for supporting our general obligation bond. This ask is extremely important. So we were working on neglected, obviously, Narragansett Bay campus and key pieces such as the fine arts building. But this is also important because there's asset protection that is happening, stormwater management, PFAS treatment plant down at our drinking water supply. And finally, the largest piece of this 123 million that we're asking for RICAP sponsorship is really for athletics complex renewal. You all know that we have a football stand that's more than 60 years old, that's safe, but it's far from satisfactory. We have not had a running track that can be used for some 35 years. We have softball stands that are falling apart. We have a swimming pool that is used by everybody to learn how to swim, as well as for a swimming team, but is also for lifeguards that's risking a leak. So that's what's contained in that 82.3. On the right-hand side, you'll see the recommendation from the governor. So 11.5 towards asset protection. Two pieces of the athletic complex. So the 43.3, to give you an idea of scale, we estimate that for the stadium, for Meade Stadium, that's about 42 million. The track we had at around 12 million. You could imagine that we could do part of the project on the track, but either you do the stadium, the Meade Stadium, or not. There's stormwater management, and then on this, there was nothing on the PFAS removal. There will be other possibilities we're in the process of applying for on the PFAS removal, and I believe that part will come, but we're still in trouble on the athletics complex renewal. Next slide. I just want to give just some highlights. So you'll see, you all know the Ryan Center, where our women's basketball team beat George Washington last night, who's number 3 in the A10. We're number 1. Next week we play UMass there. You'll see the Meade Field right there on the upper right-hand corner, and that stadium needs to be redone. You'll see where there used to be a track far over on the left-hand side. The outline is still there on the ground. You can walk over it. You'll see right next to it is a softball field. The dugouts are about to fall over. There is no restrooms over there. So there's some, very basic services that we expected to have. On our soccer field, we've had the same thing like the softball field, we don't have suitable protection for the players on the sideline. And on the baseball field, we hope not only to replace the surface of the field, but that we hope that we'll be able to put some seats so people can come and watch the baseball field. And finally, the swimming pool, very important. That's to give 10 more years life to our swimming complex. Next slide. So obviously, we have a number of efforts that are underway, and obviously I'm spending time. I will be there this afternoon to speak with the Senate President and some of his immediate colleagues. We have had already campus tours with key members of the General Assembly. I'm meeting with more members tomorrow. We are going to be up at the State House on March 28th. We're going to be having from athletics to all the great research and the impact from faculty and students and staff. And so we'll be able to share all the important work that's going on for the state of Rhode Island. Obviously, we have 58,000 alumni in the state, but we have a lot more URI champions than just URI alums. So across the state, I feel the love for the Rhode Island's university. Next slide. So I'm going to give a few updates, and Abby Ryder, feel free to jump in if I say anything slightly incorrect. So we were estimating last year of an $11.3 million estimate that obviously was not addressed in the FY23 budget ask, and so it will, of course, move forward. There is some thought that actually I may have slightly underestimated just simply because the price of utilities was a bit higher, but it's the same order. It's the order of 11-12 million. Next slide. I think there's a slide after that where we can go into detail. Abby, yeah. So this is just to give an idea of where we were in terms of the start of the financial year, and then this is on the right-hand side of that is the mid-year numbers. The bottom line is you see that we're probably a little bit higher in terms of our expenses. And so at the bottom, yeah, thank you. Is,
that's it.
the 11.3 on July 1. Oh, sorry, Abby, are you speaking?
No, I just was helping get the slide visible. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a repeat of what I said earlier on the slides, and so maybe we can stop there and take questions. So maybe we can remove the slides. Thank you. Yeah.
Mark, for the benefit of the committee, what's your strategy today in your, I think you're speaking with the speaker today or his team. What's your strategy on how to approach this discussion?
Well, I'm, very respectfully, I'm going to go through and a lot less quickly than what I just did, but I'm also going to show some additional slides that maybe some of you may not be aware of, but the appropriation per student at the University of Rhode Island is even, not only is it less than all our peers, but I will show that it's actually less than Rhode Island College and the Community College of Rhode Island. I will talk about in some detail, more about, what is the opportunity, what is the opportunity for the research flagship university, and I'll talk about our facilities. I'm going to begin, though, by first of all saying a big thank you to folks that helped us last year. They helped us on multiple fronts. It wasn't only with the RICAP. There was also important changes to legislation. We should not forget that. The fact that we're able to have this meeting in this format was thanks to the legislation that we had last year. And that was something that was very important. But my strategy is to talk about the future of Rhode Island. I'm talking about Rhode Island for all Rhode Islanders. I'm going to also remind that we do a lot with K through 12. We're involved, for example, in a very successful program in computer science in schools. We have actually, we're producing the most teachers in the state today. We're also graduating the most nurses in the state, critical needs. Right now, we have 75 students that are in practicum in the city of Providence from our program. And I'm going to talk about, the future economy. So that's probably what I'm going to push today.
I just want to add something. I'd love to hear from Armin on what he thinks the key takeaways are. But I think leaving the speaker with some really good talking points and like resonating in his head, very tangible things that you will bring to the state that he can then get behind and repeat. I think that's really important today. And so I know there's a lot of stuff we could talk about, but I think drilling in on a few that can really impact the state. And I think Armin will have a view on how to couch that, but I think that's really important today.
Margaret, did you just ask me?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Armin.
Yeah, I think, the president has laid out, what we asked for with the governor and how they responded to us. And today is very important with the speaker by showing the particular shortfalls on some of the asks, especially some of the athletic facilities that need upgrading. I know we may have some alternative means on the water issue, but you might want to drill down specifically on that. I think when you're in there, you clearly got to talk about everything, but you got to prioritize certain things as the top of the list and down, and then obviously you let us know at the board so we can all help in a different way.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think the other story that is so important, and I think one that, Mark, you're doing a ton of work around, is building revenue opportunities for the university for continued growth and sustainability above and beyond the state appropriations piece of the puzzle. And that has a ton of financial return on investment, a ton of societal return on investment in our community. And so giving them a hint as to what you're doing, I think, is incredibly powerful. The other thing is an increase in investments means an increase in overall revenue into the state. There's a direct return. I think one of the things I've heard you say before, is it 2 to 1, 3 to 1, something like that, investments to revenue? Or
For every dollar that the state invests in the University of Rhode Island, there's a return of $6.25 to the economy of Rhode Island.
yeah, that's huge.
You don't get better than that.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, I would just add that I think it's really important for this board, this university, to get those slides that you just went through and all the details behind it out into the public. Because I think people need to know. What Courtney just said, the stuff that we're doing in terms of success, and also in terms of, look, we need resources as well to be successful, and we've been completely under-resourced. And I think a lot of Rhode Islanders and URI alum and Rhode Islanders in general don't understand that and don't realize the impact of some of the slides you just pointed out. And so I think it's important for us to get this out into the public.
I totally agree with that, David. I think that is a huge issue that people don't understand it. I've had other conversations around that they don't realize that we're not being funded completely, and that we're continuously having to, you know, go and grovel and beg for dollars to run the university. It's craziness. I would also think that, you know, yesterday on the Academic Affairs Committee, we saw some great things that are happening down at the, you know, that Peter Schneider's doing with these collabs and the use of looking at plastics in the ocean and all that. Those are also other huge things that the public needs to know that we're doing, not only to get public perception about the great things that are coming out of URI, but also to grab government funding for some of those things too. If we're not going to get it from the state, let's get it from the feds. You know, there is enormous dollars out there, and we should be grabbing as much as we can.
So Mark, the meeting with the speaker, that was set up through our own intergovernmental folks?
The meeting with the speaker has been canceled. I'm just meeting with the Senate president today. And I believe they will come back with another time to meet with the speaker. That is set up with our government relations folks, yes.
So I'm too late probably, but like for various people, small place, right? Small state. Various people within your board have really close personal relationships with certain people, right? So I don't know if Matt Lenz is involved with you. I mean, he'd be like, if you walk in with one of the board members, especially in this case with the Senate President, Matt Lenz, and Armand goes without saying, but Matt also, he's got a very strong relationship with him, right? I think you'd make it more personal. I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, so I certainly think there are key roles that members of the Board of Trustees, as you said, you know, can connect. I think let me just loop back to Margot's point. You know, the key talking point. It's we've had some 50 years, at least this is where we have the data. I read a history of URI over Christmas. It's probably 100 years, but so I'm not saying that it's anybody's fault, but this is an opportunity. We have an opportunity right now to turn the economy around, but I need a chance to breathe as the president, because all I'm doing right now is finding ways to cut the university. So I need a chance, just give me a chance to make the university budget whole so I can do this. And then I'm going to go after those things with the provost, with the deans, with all the vice presidents, as Sue mentioned. And then and then we can build this. But we need a little bit of that help right now. You know, I am embarrassed to tell you as president that in this financial year, I am running a deficit, and to fill the gap, I'm having to use our reserves, and I'm having to, which are limited. They're about 22 million. Is that right, Tabby? Yes?
Yeah, a little less, more like 19 million.
Okay, thank you. So we're taking some out of that, and then we're freezing faculty hires and staff hires. I will remind that we have major needs for staff. It's not only the research office and human resources, but it's also, for example, our environmental health and safety. There are some various serious things that we need to do. And as you have seen, we don't waste money at the university. We simply do without a running track for 35 years. We have a swimming pool that risks to break and to fall apart. We have a football stand that's in dismal shape, and we have a softball field that's falling apart. It's sad, you know. So I just need a little bit of help, and if we have a little bit of help, I know that we can turn this around.
So Mark, this is Ahmed. So knowing now that you're not going to meet with the speaker today, but it's been changed to the Senate President. So here's the deal. The budget is now left the governor's office, and he did what he did. The major player on the budget, I think we all know, is the House and the Speaker from here on out. So if I was meeting with the Senate President today, I could let him know generally what all the deficiencies were based upon our ask and what we received from the governor. But given his position on the, or his power on the budget, I would get pretty specific on a particular item that we would like him to carry the weight of that item with us to the Speaker. There's where he could help. For instance, if we got short at 82 or 84 or something like 30 million on all the sports complexes, then we would need him to make that argument that all these things need to get done immediately, not just the rest of the football field stands, which it looks like we got enough to meet what the fire marshal wanted and what we want to accomplish as a university. So on a couple of these items, whether it's that or it's the 20 million for the water plant based on the legislation they just passed, that's how I would handle it with them.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good
Army,
idea.
The plan was to have two meetings today, first with the Speaker and then with the Senate President, and do them back to back. But thank you for the discussion with the Senate President. So I'll certainly present it that way. Thank you.
Does any of the committee members have any additional questions of the president on the FY24 budget?
Mark,
Okay.
what are we doing? I know Matt's got his hands around communications, and how are we managing the messaging that, like Sue referred to? I know we've talked a lot about it, but do we have an actual targeted plan as to how we're educating the residents of Rhode Island?
The first step was really to, if I step back, I'll just remind that at the end of last year, so November and December, I had the opportunity to meet with the Office of Management and Budget and with different representatives from the Speaker and from the Senate President. And then I also had an opportunity before the submission by the governor of his budget. He was very generous, and we spent an hour together and we went over in great detail. So the first step was really about communication, and that's why it's still, I feel like, out of respect to both the Speaker and the Senate President, that I talk to them first before I say anything too public about that. And then the next steps is indeed we do have a follow-on plan. It's we will obviously the URI day is an important step. I do have plans to submit then, actually, if you will, an op-ed that would speak to our alumni, and we're going to be working with our alumni associations to really talk about the story. So part of it's great, and I know there's many alums on board and that you're aware, but I think we're going to have to work to get it more broadly known. So the long answer is, or the short answer is yes, there is a plan to getting the story out. There's plenty more meetings that I'm planning. I'm planning to talk with all the mayors in the state and to talk in specifics about what we do as the University of Rhode Island. I'm going to educate people about talent development and what we do. I will remind people that 55% of the Narragansett children in the state live in poverty, and that we've introduced the scholarship, so important to be able to change the position of the Narragansett tribe and today's economy. So I'm going to talk about those things. We have lots of community events. Last week I was up at an event at our Providence campus with Hispanic community celebrating music and the art and what we bring at the University of Rhode Island. But also it was an opportunity to educate. So I have a regular participation in community events, and I will continue to do that. And our government relations people have been good at bringing me out there.
Thanks.
Okay, no further discussion on that item on FY 24. Okay, we'll now move to item C, review of the annual information for bondholders on the FY 2022. We'll call on Abigail Ryder, our Vice President for Administration and Finance.
Thank you, Armand. What you have received in your packet is the annual information for bondholders. This is information that is supplemental to our annual financial statements that we submit to the bondholders every year at this time. And it is essentially a compilation of quite a lot of information. You may find it a very useful reference document. It's got a lot of longitudinal time series of data, and is compiled from input from all over the university on each of the various topics that it covers. We then have it reviewed by bond counsel to make sure that it complies with the reporting requirements of our of the bonds themselves, and then it's filed on EMA, which is the official website for municipal securities. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. This doesn't require an approval, but we want your cognizance that this is going to be posted on EMA. That's all.
Okay, any questions of Abigail? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is 3, which is an action item, a review of a lease agreement between the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees and the United States government through the United States Department of Agriculture Research Service, USDA, for use of space and the Center for Biotechnology and Life Sciences. Abigail, you're up again.
Right, I'm going to pass this to Ryan Carrillo, our Director of Planning and Real Estate, who manages our leases. And Ryan, we'd like to explain to the board.
Okay, thank you, Abigail. So we do have a lease here for your consideration. I want to take a step back and just to say what was brought up earlier about Vice President Snyder's comments on some of his initiatives. This is in concert with one of those. So working through the Innovation Campus, the USDA is partnering with us for a hatchery for oysters on the bay. It's on private property. The USDA is contributing about $1 million to that effort to bring needed scientific equipment. On campus side then, this agreement, this lease, would provide them with additional space in the Morrill building. So today they occupy space in CBLS with a single researcher, but we're looking to expand their occupancy on campus to include another 2,900 square feet of lab and office space in Morrill. It's space that's not currently occupied because it's not currently occupiable. The USDA, with your approval of this lease, would be coming in and renovating the space. They would pay for the cost of that renovation. Then we would, it would be a 10-year lease with a 10-year optional renewal, subject to the continual presence of the research collaboration agreement that was also included in your package. Each year, this collaboration would bring an additional $2 million of research funding to the campus by way of these researchers that will work in conjunction with our world-class researchers that already research on shellfish genomics and disease prevention. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Ryan? Any further discussions? Okay, Chair would entertain the following motion, and I need to read this motion, that the Finance and Facilities Committee recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the lease agreement and authorize President Mark B. Kalange to execute the lease agreement with the United States government through the United States Department of Agriculture Agricultural Research Service, USDA, for use of space in the Center of the Biotechnology and Life Sciences, Memorial Hall and Woodward Hall, Kingston, as duly authorized agent pursuant to the approved signature. And so therefore, I need a motion. I need that to be a motion. Do I hear that as a motion?
So moved, Fahid.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
David Morano, second.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion? I would ask then for a voice vote. All in favor, respond yes.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. The only other item we have, is there any questions on anything to date? All right, the only motion we have left is a motion to adjourn. Do I hear that as a motion?
This is Courtney, so moved.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay,
Second, Sue Petrovas.
all right. Voice vote, all in favor, yes?
Yes.
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 Opposed, no? Any abstention? The yes have it. Very nice.
Thank you, Armin. Appreciate it.
Thank you for
Sorry
the.
to do it at
Thank you,
last
everybody.
minute.
Next time, only give me 10 minutes notice, I'll be good.
You did fantastic. I'm fired.
Good job.
Well done.